The Nano Cortex 2.0 update is amazing, but well, hey guys, thanks for joining me for another episode. So in this episode, I'm going to do some demonstrations. I'll play a full mix for you, and I'll also address some of the things that I noticed about the Nano Cortex update and some of the things I noticed about the Nano Cortex itself that should be and hopefully will be fixed or addressed or whatever you want to call it in the next update. And some of these things I'm going to talk about you guys noticed as well and made comments in my video that I did about the 2.0 update. And I'm going to read and respond to those and other comments associated with that video as well. So let's go ahead and get into those comments now. So I really hope you guys watch every second of this video because there's some good information in here, not just from me, but from some of the comments as well. And so let's go ahead and address these ones here. This is from SLO7H Productions. He said, is the real amp feel as good as it is in the ToneX now? Now, before I respond to that comment, I'm going to read another one that's kind of in the same vein, but it has another opinion about another competing product, and it just shows how there are varied opinions out there, and I will address all of that after I read this comment. This is from Chris Smith 2396, and he said, is it stiff and sterile on the input like the ToneX, or does it feel like an amp input with give and sag feel? Okay, so you have one guy saying that the ToneX feels a little bit stiff and sterile, and you have another guy asking, is the real amp feel as good as it is on the ToneX now? So I appreciate you guys asking these questions and making these comments. So basically what I'll say is I think both products are very good when it comes to sound and feel. What it really comes down to is what are the captures like? So I make sure that when I make captures for my website and for people to buy, that they feel good to play as well as they sound good to play. You know, whether it's a DI or a studio capture, doesn't matter. And it doesn't matter which unit I'm working with. I go out of my way to make sure that the captures feel good to play. In other words, they're not going to have that horrible, sterile, lifeless, anemic feel to them like a lot of captures do. And a lot of people blame the unit. They're like, oh, well, the captures in the brand Y don't sound as good as brand X, or they don't feel as good in brand Y as they do in brand X. And it's really not the product's fault. It's the person who made the captures. It's their fault. And I can swear to that because I make captures myself. And like I previously said, it really does take some effort to make sure that they sound good as well. And I test them by playing them. I go, does this feel sterile? Yeah, it does. Okay, what do I need to do to make it feel better? And a lot of it has to do with how I set the amp up and all that kind of stuff. A lot of guys are trying to sell all these mix-ready sounds. You know, oh, these are mix-ready and you don't have to do anything to them. Well, there's no such thing as mix ready, first of all. That is a complete line of bullshit. Okay, so anytime you see mix ready, run for the hills. That means it sounds like shit and it feels like shit. So don't ever play mix ready anything, okay? And I'll get more on that in a second here, but when you play an amp, is it mix ready? No, it's not. Amps sound and feel like amps, you know? And when you record with an amplifier, the engineer is going to adjust the settings of the amplifier via EQ, compression, and all that kind of stuff later in the session. He's basically going to take your amp track and going to do a whole bunch of stuff to it in final mix. When he's got the bass, the drums, the keys, the vocals, and all the other stuff in there, then the engineer is going to go ahead and nip-tuck the amplifier tone accordingly based on the other instruments that it's in there with. So when you have a quote-unquote mix-ready sound, what are you getting? Well, you're getting somebody who basically chopped the nuts off the amplifier and made it thin and added a bunch of high end to it to make it stand out in a mix. And he's doing this without knowing what the other instruments it's going to be blended with later. So it's kind of silly to do all of that. So as far as I'm concerned, every one of these amps are truly mix ready, meaning they're going to sound amazing, okay? And then the producer or engineer is going to nip tuck and just kind of do all the magic to that guitar tone later when he's doing final mix. And that's really what you want. You want something that is ready to be sculpted for whatever mix that you're going to be doing, instead of something that's pre-sculpted. Because again, pre-sculpting, you're making a lot of guesses based on a lot of information that you don't have, and it's stupid to do that. Okay, so that's probably the reason why a lot of people play a ToneX or a Quad Cortex or a KEMPER or whatever, and they go, man, it doesn't feel good. Well, it's not the product, it's the capture or the profile that you're playing. Somebody who made that capture or profile sucked the life out of it when they made the capture or profile by EQing the hell out of the mics, or just dumping the bass way down on the amp, or dumping the gain way back or whatever. And another thing that people don't do or don't realize when they're making captures for their websites or whatever is they don't set the amp up to sound good as a capture. They just have it set up so that, okay, well, the amp sounds good in the room. Even if they're not doing mix-ready BS captures, they're still setting the amp up in a way where, well, the capture unit, whether it's a ToneX or, you know, KEMPER or Quad Cortex, doesn't matter, is going to capture it, but it's not always going to be 100% accurate. So sometimes you have to bump the gain up a little bit, because some units will actually undergain the captures when they're capturing an amplifier, so you have to attenuate for that on the amplifier and nudge the gain up a little bit. Or they make it a little too thin, so you have to put the bass in the amp in a place where if you're just playing the amp by itself, it's a little too much, but the capture of that is going to be exactly how it should be. So you have to attenuate for some of those things, and a lot of guys don't do that. Also, another thing with boosted captures, I don't pick the best overdrive pedal when I'm boosting an amp and capturing it. I don't pick it for the amp. I pick it for the capture, if that makes sense. Because a lot of times you can have the perfect boost pedal in front of the amplifier, and in the room you're like, yes, this amp sounds perfect. All right, let's capture it. But the capture's too thin. So you have to use a boost pedal that actually adds a little more of that thickness to the amplifier, or doesn't cut so much low end out, so that when you do make the capture, the amp sounds, or the capture sounds proper afterwards. So if that makes sense. So don't blame the product, blame the person who made the capture, because I can tell you right now, 9 times out of 10, that's the issue. So again, I think both units do a great job. Just get the right captures, and I think you'll like either one of them. So I hope this helps. So let's see here. All right, so this next comment is from Chrisman3933, and he said, thanks for the real-time demonstration. Great tones as well. I'm trying to decide between this, in other words, the Nano Cortex, and the ToneX. Any advice? So I did comment on that, but I'll say this. I think both units are really good, and I think it just comes down to a use case thing. I mean, if you're going to be making your own captures, I can say that the ToneX is a little more difficult to make captures with, because you have to use your computer and your software, and a little more hooking up things with an interface and all that kind of stuff to get the captures that you want. And you need a pretty powerful computer to get those done quickly. Otherwise, they could render for up to 5 or 6 hours, which is a pain in the ass. But with the Nano Cortex, I mean, you can use the unit itself. It is a capture unit. You don't need any additional software. So that's cool. Now, one caveat to that is you do need to use the app to make the captures with, you know. But other than that, yeah, you're good. But yeah, I would say that between the two, the ToneX is going to be a little more work when it comes to making captures. But I think between the two, the captures come out very good. And the other thing with the ToneX is you don't have a mobile app, but you do have a computer app that you can adjust everything on. And you can also add effects and all that kind of stuff with it as well in real time. So that's awesome. That's an update they just did. So I think that's great. With the Nano Cortex, you pretty much kind of have to use the mobile app with it, but it's actually a really cool app, so it's not a big deal. So that you can do as well. I think, you know, based on your question, I mean, you could pretty much flip a coin between the two regarding sound and feel, because of the things that I mentioned earlier in the video. But I would say that depending on your use case and what you're looking for, you'll pick one over the other based on what I just explained as far as the main differences between the two goes. So I hope this helped you out. Let's see here. Another comment that I got that I noticed as well when I shot the video, and it did kind of bug me a little bit. It doesn't make it so that I don't like the product, but it did kind of bug me a little bit. And this is from Tony Politics 3938. He said they need to fix the transitions between presets. Too much dropout going on in between. And you know what? You're right. You're 100% right, and I'll demonstrate that in a minute. I'll demonstrate that with some riffs and with a full mix. I'll use the same mix I did before in my previous video because that was the mix I struggled a lot with, and I could show you outtakes, but I don't want to edit all that. But I literally stopped, and I'm like, why is this doing this? And I tried to fix it, and I'm like, I can't. I thought it was an adjustment on my end, but it's not. So when you switch presets in the Nano Cortex, there's like this gap between them. And that's something that I remember the Line 6 Helix having when it first came out, and it was a big complaint a lot of people had, and they fixed it with snapshots. So it's not a matter of how the product is built, it's just a matter of how they're using the DSP in the product and how they route it. I don't have any inside information, but I'm pretty sure that Neural is aware of that, and it's probably something that is on the priority list to fix down the road. At least I hope it is, because it's not a deal breaker, but it's definitely something that would be nice to have. Maybe they can somehow choose in the app between preset and scene mode with it that would reroute the DSP and make it so that it's a smooth transition between scenes or presets or whatever you want to call them. So before I demonstrate that, let me see if there's any other comments that I wanted to address in here. No, so let's go ahead and demonstrate that now. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch between my dry preset and my wet preset, and you're going to hear the gap. Okay, here we go. So as you heard, there's definitely a gap between the presets, and it's pretty obvious, you know. And in a minute, I'll do a full mix with all of these presets and show you that even in a mix, you can hear it. And it's not a deal breaker, but it is something that I hope that they fix. Let me do that one more time. Let me go between my dry and my lead, and then back to dry again and see how that sounds. Okay, so you heard that. It's good that you get the spillover from the delays and stuff. That is actually really cool. By the way, my dry preset has a little bit of reverb on it. I darkened it and I added a bunch of decay, but made it very low in the mix. I think it sounds incredible. I'm kind of hooked on it right now. Check this out. Doesn't that sound amazing? It's kind of ominous. So I'm going to kind of leave that in for a while and see if I get sick of it, but I don't think I will. Reverb is a lot of fun if you use it correctly. I don't like a ton of reverb, but what I do like is the subtleties that it can give you from time to time, and it is really cool. So for those who are wondering, I'm using the modulated reverb, and the mix is 5.5, decay is 6.08. And pre-delay is 20.0, mod speed 1.20, mod depth 40%, high pass 80 hertz, low pass 1347 hertz, if that helps you. So give that a try. I think it sounds cool. Let's hear it one more time. It just sounds so ominous. I love it. Okay, so let's do a full mix now, and I'll do the same song that I did the other day, and I want to show you how the gaps kind of stand out in here. But I want to show you one other thing too. I actually added to the preset a lead preset with chorus, which I don't usually do, but I thought it'd be kind of cool to have for certain parts of my solo. So in the breakdown of this song, the first part of the solo, I'm going to be using some chorus on my my leads, and then when it kicks in, I'll switch to like a straightforward lead. Same kind of delay and everything with the ping pong delay and all that, but I just think that it's kind of cool to have that little bit of extra flavor every once in a while. So we'll go ahead and do that as well. So let's go ahead and do that full mix now. All right, so if you ask me, that sounded absolutely incredible. I did have a little screw up in the solo, but I'm doing one take mixes now because I don't have all day. And perfection is the enemy of production. So anyways, you guys get the idea. I really love how the chorus sounded on the intro to the solo there, that little breakdown part. I mean, it just added this nice little flavor to it, and it sounded killer. But all that being said, you could still hear the gap every time I switched presets. No matter which preset I switched to or from, you could hear the gap. So I really hope they address that, because even in a mix, you do notice it. And this is one of the best tones I've ever had on the Nano or the Quad Cortex. This is actually a capture of the Licklerm Prometheus amp, and I'm boosting it with the exotic pedal, and it just sounds incredible. It really does. And it's actually the DC capture, which is the dual cab. So I captured it with the DV77 on my Zilla cab, blended with my Vintage 30 on my Mesa cab, and I just think it's got this really rich, thick, aggressive sound to it, and I really like how it sounds. By the way, that capture pack is available on my website, linked below, tonewars.com. If you want to get that capture pack, that capture is actually in there, and it just sounds incredible. And there's no processing on this video. I didn't enhance it in any way, and I didn't change any of the settings on the capture either. It's just, that's how it is, raw, right off my website, and just boosted with the exotic pedal, and it sounds and feels amazing. So if you want that, go ahead and get that for yourself. I thought that capture pack came out amazing. But anyways, I think that the update is awesome. So I don't want to take anything away from that, and I don't want to be one of those ungrateful douchebags who, oh yeah, but you didn't do this or whatever. I think it's amazing. And do I still think the pedal's a no-brainer? Yes, I do. Go get one. They're awesome. It's a great little pedal, and it offers a ton of great sounds and effects and flexibility and all that kind of stuff. So you heard all 4 presets that I dialed in that song. So the only thing I would like to see them fix or update or change or whatever is the gap. I'd also, if I could be so greedy, I would like to see them do 2 more things. Number 1, I would like to see down the road for them to be able to let us have a capture of our favorite overdrive pedal, as opposed to the models that they put in there in the signal chain as well. If they don't ever do that, I'm not going to cry about it. It's just something that is like, hey, if you could do that, that would be great. If you can't, no big deal, because I just think that would be cool. So that's not a make it or break it thing with me. I just think it would be cool. I don't know how much DSP a capture takes up as opposed to one of their models regarding pedals, so I don't know if it's possible, but that would be nice. The other thing I would like to see them do is have a home base on each side, in other words, on each switch, so that when you go back to, you know, if you're on switch number 2, you're on 2A, and you want to go back to 1A, but you left off on 1B, you can still go back to 1A if you make it so that 1A is home base on that switch, if that makes sense. Because if you leave off of 1B and go to 2A, when you go back to the first switch on the left, you're going to go back to 1B as opposed to 1A, or vice versa, whatever you want. So that's something that would be cool too, where you can pick home base on each side, and then you can switch around after that if you want or whatever. So that way, if you're coming out of a solo and you want to go to a clean, but clean's on 1A, but you left off on 1B, you're going to have to double tap, and that might be an inconvenience. So it just depends. I just think that would be cool, and I want to make it so that you can choose to have that feature or not. So anyways, well, I hope you guys enjoyed the video and enjoyed my answers to the comments, and I appreciate those who made comments. I always appreciate that very much. And what are your thoughts on the Nano Cortex? Is it a no-brainer for you now? And for those of you who have one and got the update, what do you think about the update? And what would you like to see in the future on the Nano Cortex? I'm sure Neural will be reading your comments, because they do surf the web and check out people's videos, and they love being a fly on the wall and reading real comments from people, and I'm sure they appreciate the information. And I appreciate this product. I think it's amazing, and I really highly recommend it. I mean, it's, what is it, $550 or something like that, and it does all the stuff, you know, that a lot of products don't do at its price point. I mean, it has an app, It has 4 presets. It has a lot of great effects, and you can get some really good captures on it. And if you want to make your own captures, you can do that. You can run it off of USB. I mean, there's just so many awesome features with this, and there's going to be more to come. So let me know what you think in the comment section below. And if you want to get the best metal captures that feel great to play and sound great to play, go to my website, man. You will thank me later for that. And I mean that. And I say that with all humility, but also a lot of confidence. I get a lot of comments from people who get my capture packs and they love how they sound, they love how they feel. And if you're one of those people, please comment below and give me a testimonial. I'd appreciate that. Well, to all my Patreon supporters and subscribers, thank you guys so much. And if you're new to the channel and you haven't subscribed yet, please do, and click the bell so that you don't miss upcoming live streams and episodes. I got a lot more stuff coming up for you guys, and I'll see you on the next one.